What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fifth album by rapper Trina. Basically, this product is called Amazin, and it came out in the spring of 2010. The thing about this particular product is just the fact that Trina had a string of hit albums throughout the 2000s as far as that pitch kind of went, but in the 2010s she started to dissipate a bit, not in terms of quality, but at least in terms of the aspect of like her predominance that she had like in 2005 and 2002 and 2008, some of those type pitches. And the thing about this particular album also is just the fact that it had a lot of promotion about it. This is actually a pretty boisterous and overall popular album. I'd say this is probably one of Trina's best, I'd have to say. But then I said that also about her Diamonds Are Forever. But then I said that also about her Diamonds Are Forever mixtape from 2011, and also Still the Baddest was pretty good from 2008. So Trina had had a pretty good run as far as those pitches kind of went with some of her hit projects in the late 2000s and early 2010s. I definitely have to suppose good concepts. Thing about it was just the fact that the thing about it was is there was a new bad bitch in town, which was Nicki Minaj. She was blowing up around mid 2009, late 2009, early 2010 when Trina was dropping this particular project. So it's kind of the concept. They don't really compete on this particular album, and I like the concept of that just because they're both pretty superb as far as that pitch goes along with it. But it's just kind of the concept that in terms of like a Southern princess, someone that was on top of the game for a good while between at least 2002 to about 2008, 2009, 2010. It's not so much that Trina backed out of the spotlight. It's just kind of the fact that like the amalgamation, like the limelight as to like the lead Chica that was kind of in the spotlight. For the most part, back in like the early 2010s and like the late 2000s pitches like that, it seemed like there was only enough room for about one female as far as that particular kind of went, at least one female rapper. Like in like between like 96 to about 2001 or so, it was probably Lil Kim, and it was probably Trina between 2002 and 2008, something like that. And between 2009 and like 2014 it was Nicki Minaj, then 2015 to 2019 or so it was Cardi B, and so on as far as that pitch kind of went. But I do feel like there were obviously some more popular chicas besides that. There definitely were some ones just to think of, but like folks like DeBrat and Missy Elliott and like Foxy Brown had kind of dissipated just within that concept. So it's just kind of here and there. But I look after the concept. This once again, this is a pretty excellent album here. It had tons of promotion for it. It was a pretty good concept. Trina was not really bowing out, but she didn't drop another album after this one until way out in 2019. So she really just put out mixtapes as far as that particular kind of went. So it's just kind of the concept that she just seemingly kind of bowed out of the spotlight a little bit as that particular pitch kind of happened, which is a disappointment just because this is such a quality high note to kind of go out on as far as that kind of goes. It's not like she went out because she put out more products. She did drop, like, once again, Diamonds Are Forever is a pretty hit project. That was probably the next project that she dropped. She might have dropped some other mixtapes. She did. Wikipedia says that she dropped two mixtapes in conjunction with this particular product, which is pretty awesome. And I have to get to those at some point. I'd have to say, but there were a ton. Some of these did chart. Some of these mixtapes did have charting singles, like Red Bottoms, that was off of Diamonds Are Forever. But she also had a charting single off of her 2012 mixtape, Pitches Like That. I'd have to say, so it's a good enough concept, kind of get that. But there's some good stuff here. Really appreciate this album. Just would have to say. Thing about it is, Trina doesn't really, it's not usually full blown that Trina gets to like the top of the charts in terms of like the Billboard 100 pitches like that. But there's definitely some good singles on here, I'd have to say. It's just kind of the concept that you just have to look for it a little bit more just within the pitch. Maybe not has like the full blown widespread this mainstream type appeal of Nicki Minaj and even Lil Kim in some cases, but it's not like that's a bad thing. I feel like she's pretty much a queen of Southern rap. I'd have to say for like the longest time, just would have to suppose some real good concept. This album's no exception. But surprisingly, this album's not as quite. Surprisingly, the thing about this particular album is just the fact that it's not as quite Southern fried. I'd have to say compared to Still the Baddest, which was rooted in MySpace and Southern rap flavor. I'd have to say this project's a little bit more pop rap. I'd have to say it has a lot of commercial bite about it, despite the fact that these singles didn't full blown charts heavily as they needed to. I still would have to say there's a lot of good promotion. There's a song that was written by Lady Gaga on here, Nicki Minaj and Puff Daddy are on this particular album. Flow Ride is on this particular album. Pitches like that. There's just a lot of good promotion. Monica's on here a couple of times. One of the chicks from Dirty Money's on this particular project, Kalena Harper. So it's a good concept kind of get some of these. I want to say Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, just some good promotion about this particular project. So a lot of good stuff. We'll go ahead and talk about the four singles, but actually there were actually damn near six singles, just to be able to say there were at least four singles, but then there were like some promotional type ones I'll probably talk about as well. But basically, that's My Attitude is the lead single. This is a pretty nice one. It's like a solid kind of female bravado cut, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a get primped and kind of step out nice kind of song, I'd have to say in particular. This song just has some flashy pizzazz for like promo night, I'd have to say. The song just has some flashy pizzazz for like promo night. I'd have to say, and it's just an overall pretty hit song. So it's a pretty good concept to get this one. This one's a little bit more of like a female hustle type song as far as that pitch can go. It's just something that like Rick Ross or Lil Wayne would kind of do in a more sense. I mean, it's not quite Trina's version of like a Millie or something like that, but it's just kind of one that just is like some female charisma and swagger as far as that particular kind of goes. Not necessarily like a flirty type song or a more, not so much like a flirty type song or more sensual type song, but just a more driven type one, just showing game and just rapping a bit and just pitches like that. Just a good, nice one. Just some good promo type tunes to kind of get there. Just real nice primp type one to get. Million Dollar Girl is the second single. This is a nice one. Also, this has Carrie Hilson, who I've kind of forgotten about in recent times, and Puff Daddy on there. I'd have to say in particular, pretty nice one. It's like a snazzy kind of diva music of a song, I'd have to say. This is like a snazzy kind of diva music of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a good pop rap kind of day commerce of a song. I would definitely feel like this is definitely some shopping music and just kind of plush errands kind of activity. So there's definitely some shopping songs in this particular project. It seems like Trina definitely has some good songs for shopping malls and pitches like that, buying clothes, looking snazzy, some of those type pitches. Definitely some good diva music. There's some ones that are plush on here that just have a lot of good appeal and pitches like that. It's a pretty good single. This has a lot of good grace about it. Some of these singles, I mean, they're hardcore in terms of the appeal, but they're really affable in terms of the commercialness behind it. It's just the fact that they just underperform. It's kind of awkward as to why that happened. I think folks were just too red hot for like Nicki Minaj around this particular time as far as that particular kind of went. But I just look after it. It's just kind of concept that Trina was not someone you wanted to ignore around this particular time. These are some fun songs and just overall appealing. Because Nicki Minaj was not necessarily making songs like this. I mean, I do feel like Pink Friday was kind of a plush type album in like a certain sense, but this one just has a lot more pop rap type appeal towards it. I mean, maybe it doesn't have the bombastic hooks of like Super Bass or one of those type songs or Fly that Nicki Minaj did or some of those type ones, or can't think of the full blown songs that Nicki Minaj did just out of that aspect, but just being able to say just some good ones to kind of get here. These are just some more, just more if you know, you know type territory, I'd have to say. But Always is a pretty nice one. This says Monica on there. It's a real nice bopish type one to get. It's like a romantic kind of day malaise of a song, I'd have to say. It's like some R&B flavored hit of a song. I would definitely feel like this is like a primer for some quicker times. Just kind of one to listen to before you're getting ready to step out, especially if Boo or Bay is kind of in the picture as far as that particular kind of goes. It's some good romantic type tunes just for like some in-between kind of basic charmer of a song, I'd have to say in particular. And this is just a nice hit. It's kind of the concept of it. It's getting ready to get primped and go step out and have some good times. Just kind of an in-between type one. Really like the concept of some romantic type fare as far as that particular kind of goes. Kind of something that Mary J. Blige would do, but also kind of something that maybe Monica or Brandy would do some of that type pitch where it's kind of like a down tempo type song, but it's also kind of just more of one to get you excited and just kind of have some thrills about it. Just kind of one that this is somewhat homely, but also the concept that you realize that you're not just going to be bored all night or just not bored all night, but just low key, just residential all night pitches like that, just more in hangout type mode. It's a good enough concept kind of get that one. And then one of my favorite songs off this particular album that's a real nice glitzy type one is White Girl. Really appreciate this one. That says Flow Right on there. Pretty nice pitch. This is like a glitzy kind of electric dance club pounder, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a take shots and get wasted kind of song. I definitely have to say. And the turn up vibes are really extremely high on this particular song. This is just a nice one. This is like Gucci Mane's Wasted off of this is like Gucci Mane's Wasted off of his late 2009 album. Some pitches like that. Some good pounders to kind of get in particular. Just some good pounders to kind of get in particular. I'd have to say pretty nice one for that. Definitely one of the best songs in the album. I'd say just the overall electronic type beat just works extremely well in here. Just some real good fare. This is a real nice one from Trina. I mean, this whole album's pretty damn good, I'd have to say, but this is just one that has like the most snarl about it. It's a real dance hit. It's a real nice one to kind of get for some of that glitz. Kind of like a more flashy type version of Single again off of her 2008 album, I'd have to say. I mean, Single again was a little bit more mid-tempo as far as that goes. Not really like so much like a dance club pounder, but this one's definitely got some riveting and just overall snarling kind of energy. But some of these other songs that were kind of released as singles, but kind of not, just within the aspect, I mean, it's just kind of the concept that she had a lot of promotion that was meant to go along with it, but one of which was supposed to be a single. It's supposed to be the lead single, but Lady Gaga could not get her vocals to the particular album because of label disputes and pitches like that. Has let them hoes fight. This is written by Lady Gaga and Trina. As far as that particular kind of goes, you can kind of tell it's like a pseudo Lady. You can kind of tell it's like a pseudo Lady Gaga type song just by the hook and pitches like that. I'd say I definitely feel like the hook is like that, but it's by Kalena Harper. But it has Kalena Harper of Dirty Money, which is Puff Daddy's group back in late 2010. I'd say in particular, pretty good concept of that. It's like a red hot kind of pseudo single of a song. I'd have to say Real great concept for that particular pitch. It's like a snazzy kind of house party noise I'd have to say in particular, and this just feels like a bop for like Hot Topic or pitches like that. I have to say somewhere like Spencer's, Hot Topic, some of those more alternative type stores, pitches where you'd be able to find gothic folks and some of that type of stuff is more alternative type fare. I'd have to say in particular, it's an interesting pitch for Trina. Do definitely like the concept of it as far as getting that particular flash and flare. Real nice snazzy type one to kind of get here. It's like Katy Perry meets Trina, something within that relative pitch, just as far as the aspect kind of goes. Katy Perry and Lady Gaga meets Trina and more like Lil Kim type stuff as far as that particular kind of goes along with it. But really, Trina was no stranger to doing this sort of stuff. Trina also had a song with like the Millionaires who were pretty popular in like 2009, 2010, some of those type pitches also. So it's a good enough concept to kind of get some of these. I do like some of these particular type songs to kind of get within that flash and flare. Trina's kind of a chameleon. She kind of goes along with some of these type vibes and pulls them off. So it's a good concept for that. And then My Bitches was another single that was almost like a single. This one was kind of like a buzz single, I'd have to say in particular. It's like a glossy kind of step out promo hit, I'd have to say. Pretty good concept for that. It's like a vintage kind of late 2000s Trina, I'd have to say in particular. And this is just like a fresh cut for some outing pizzazz, I'd have to say. And this is a pretty steadfast type song. So I can see My Bitches being like a promo single and a buzz single. It's a pretty good pitch for that in particular. Just some good glossy step out just for like a promo type. Definitely say it reminds me a lot of That's My Attitude, $1 Million Girls, for a particular kind of goes. Not quite as plush as $1 Million Girl, but also not quite as bravado induced as That's My Attitude. Just kind of an in between type one. It's good to get some of these just because Trina was kind of stepping out and looking primped as far as that particular kind of goes. So it's just a good, nice one for that sort of pitch. Kind of almost like a caddy type song, but it works pretty well. I do like the appeal of caddy type songs, so it's definitely some good concepts to kind of get there. So there's 14 songs on this particular album, and out of those 14, I wound up recommending to you 10 and a half. So basically there's 15, but Capricorn is just kind of a song that's just kind of an interlude of a song. It doesn't really have singing and melodies on this particular song. It's just Trina speaking on this particular song as far as it kind of goes. Good enough concept. I'm not going to count that song. So there's 14 songs in here, 10 and a half out of those I recommend. Some fashion is just a pretty good pitch. So I'll go ahead and talk about the songs first that I don't recommend on here, which would just be basically Amazin', the title track, which is the intro, and then Make Way with Life Jennings, and then like By Myself. So basically By Myself, I just didn't appreciate the breezy type flair of that particular one. It was just kind of one that was like some outing pizzazz as far as that particular kind of went. It was just kind of almost like an outing type pizzazz of a song just to be able to get a little bit of like a worse version of songs like $1 Million Girl and That's My Attitude and some of those type ones, and My Bitches, some of those type ones in particular. But I just felt like the production on that one was just kind of basic and flat compared to some of the rest of the album. I'd say it was just kind of somewhat of a starry-eyed type one that just didn't pull out the vibes quite as nearly as it needed to. I really liked the production type flair on Amazing, the title track, but that one was just too much like an intro type song. It was just kind of a kickoff to the album. I definitely think that this probably should have just been a normal song. That would have been so much better if it just would have been like a normal type song. And I kind of feel like Life Jennings just didn't translate to the more promo type fare of like Make Way as far as that pitch kind of went. I think I mean, it's good to kind of get him on like some degree of like a commercial type song, but it just didn't really have the pitch as far as what probably needed to happen just within that. Was just kind of one. I don't know. I mean, usually he's on like the more B-leaguer type songs and pitches like that, which I would like to see him on a different type pitch, but it just kind of feels like the commercial type flair just didn't add up the way it probably needed to. It was just the translation to how it happened was just not quite as effective as it probably needed to be. Just kind of a disappointment because it's not every day that you see him on songs past like the mid-late 2000s, I'd have to say. I look after that kind of thing. So the rest of the songs on this particular album is a good assortment of songs on here. Basically, some more ones on here. That's a real nice one would have to be Currency. This has Lil Wayne and Rick Ross on there, which is a pretty good pitch. This one definitely reminds me of like a 2000s snap and ringtone rap type song. I'd have to say in particular, real nice glitzy beat. It's like a good smoke a few and get crunk type song I'd have to say in particular, and this is just like a stylish kind of strip club hitter I'd have to say. So this is one of the few strip club songs on here. I'd probably say White Girl, Let Them Hoes Fight, and Currency are some good songs for like strip clubs and overall night pizzazz as far as that particular kind of goes. I mean, Trina's pretty spicy and wild animal in certain pitches I'd have to say. Pretty good concept. She talks about being the baddest bitch plenty of times I'd have to say, so some good concepts kind of see that in display on here. Some real good concepts for that. Pretty surprising hit song on here is Dang-a-Lang. This has Nicki Minaj and Lady Saw on here, which is a pretty good pitch. It's like a summery kind of freak-a-leak dance club bounce of a song I'd have to say in particular. This has a real summery and tropical. Type production on here. This has some surprising swag from Nicki Minaj, Trina, and Saw. I'd have to say Lady Saw. I'd have to say, and this is a pretty good hopper. This is one of the most effective songs on the album in terms of like lyrical content. I'd have to say. Three bad bitches being on the song. Now, Lady Saw doesn't drop a verse, but it's just kind of the concept. She's on the chorus. She does a pretty good bumbleclot type type appeal, that particular pitch as far as that kind of goes. But Nicki Minaj has a surprising verse, you know, considering the fact that she didn't have an album out before when she dropped this particular verse. It's a pretty good pitch to kind of get her obliterating this particular song and doing it. Definitely mad props to Nicki for nailing this particular song, and Trina was pretty good on this song as well. Just a real nice one. They just tag team off each other real well as far as that pitch kind of went. Just a real excellent type one to kind of get. Just a real surprisingly effective type one that just was kind of an offhanded type one, but it worked extremely well. On the Hush was a pretty nice one. It's like a glazed kind of R&B pizzazz of a song, I'd have to say. It's like a tasks done kind of hangout jive of a song, I'd have to say. It's like some cheery, this is like a cheery kind of stellar hook that this song particularly kind of has, and this is like an early kind of wine and dime type music, I'd have to say. This is another romantic type one, pretty similar to Always, and I Wanted All, some of those type pitches, I'd have to say. Good enough concept to get some of these, just stuff that kind of reminds me of like this kind of more homely and steadfast type R&B as far as that particular kind of goes. It's more in the pitch of this more down tempo type fashion, but this works in like a more romantic type sense. It's something that's just not quite as glitzy and quite as glamorous as far as stepping out and having like a rave type time. If you just want to have some basic hangout type flair and just pitches like that and just appreciate movie night pitches like that, snack is some of those type pitches, just overall game night, just house appeal, some of those type things. So good songs for that sort of stuff. Showing Out's a pretty nice one. This is another step out type song. I do like this one. It's a little bit more lazy, but I do like the concept of it. It's like a glitzy kind of club grace of a song, I'd have to say in particular. In particular, this one reminds me of The Dream, I'd have to say. Specifically, the song Shoddy is the shit. Pretty nice one to kind of get that one in particular. And this like a peppy kind of dance floor music of a song, I'd have to say. And it's like a vanilla night out. So it's definitely another bop for just the outing type flair. Goes pretty well with $1 Million Girl, I'd have to say. Showing Out is a pretty nice one. Definitely some of that appeal that like The Dream does and some of those type folks. Just for that to say, Trina has a real good appeal on this particular song. There's another song that's kind of like this one. I'd almost say like My Bitches is kind of like that. There's some basic kind of late 2000s type flair. Just kind of capitalized on some of that particular type song. I mean, this sort of sound hadn't worn out by like early 2010s. I'd have to say this sort of sounded like The Dream and like a little bit the Dream and a little bit of the Dream and a little bit of Chris Brown, a little bit of like Fabulous, some of those type folks that were just kind of doing that particular sound in particular. Not quite Usher, a little bit of Akon in there, some of those type pitches as far as that particular kind of goes. Just some of that snazziness that's kind of graceful, but this also has some of that dance club appeal that just works for a good outing. It's vanilla, and this one's more vanilla than some of the songs on here. But I do like the appeal here in this just on a night out, some of those type pitches. This is a real nice one. And then the almost song would have to be I Want It All. This is a real nice pitch of one. It's just another steadfast type one, but it's a nice one. This is like a steadfast kind of preoccupied late day back and forth of a song, I'd have to say in particular. This one reminds me of a more beleaguered kind of Mary J. Blige type song, I'd have to say. It's just it's an effectual type one, but it's just kind of an almost song because I question the often as to how much I'd listen to it. It's just kind of a more one that you listen to and just like some of that wintry kind of beleaguered type haze of just like after work, kind of after hours work shift as far as that pitch kind of goes. It's 3:30, 4:30 p.m. pitches like that, some of that type malaise. It's the basic kind of piano beat that's just more typical kind of R&B from like late 90s, early 2000s, some of those type pitches that you would have heard from like Monica, Mary J. Blige, some of that type stuff. But it is a pretty nice song. I just think the concept is a nice song. It's this kind of concept make question how often I'd full blown listen to it compared to some of these crazier type songs are just more ones that have more immediacy towards them. So that's the concept of this particular album. Definitely a real good highlight from Trina I'd have to say in particular. So the score I'm going to give this album, me recommending 10.5 songs out of 14 on this particular project. I'm going to go ahead and give this album like a solid 9 out of 10. Pretty damn close. I mean, if I just like more of I Want It All, if that one had hit more heavily for me and probably just a little bit. I mean, if I had recommended 11 out of 14, it would have gotten like a 9. Probably would have gotten like a 9.5 or 9.25. Probably a 9.5, some of that type pitch. I just would have to say, but that's just kind of the concept about it. It's not to say like a 9 is anything near a poor score, I'd say. So it's a pretty dope concept, gonna get that. The Soja score, that's kind of tricky. I want to give the Soja score like a 10 out of 10. It's just the appeal. The quality of these songs is definitely kind of there, I'd have to say. It's just kind of the concept as to whether or not like the appeal behind it, just in terms like the casual type of affair kind of happened. Just because you look after it, there were some good songs, but it just kind of makes you question in terms like most of these songs when it comes to Spotify barely have 1 million plays, or there's only 2 songs out of 15 on this particular album that have over 1 million plays. So it's just kind of more and just like somewhat of like a popular sense on Spotify. It's not like it's unpopular. It's just kind of the concept in terms of like a casual hit, like a mainstream hit that would have gotten Trina to the top. It's just kind of the concept that it's just seeming. It just kind of seems in more alternative and if you know, you know type territory, which is not a bad thing. So I think I'll give the social score of this album like a 9.5 out of 10 because I do feel like the quality is definitely there. I think it's just supreme in terms of the aspects of what it delivers upon and the stuff that it does. All these glitzy type songs, all these romantic type songs, all these work shift type songs, all that sort of pitch as far as that particular kind of goes. There's some good shopping music and day commerce pitches like that. Just a lot of good promo type songs and just snazzy primping stuff as far as that particular kind of goes. Got some good concepts, but just the fact that it didn't have like that number one, like just didn't have one of those number ones or top 15 single. And really, Trina hasn't really ever been like that in particular. It's just kind of the concept that it's just too bad that she couldn't get those biggest type hits. But I'm not complaining just because this is a quality album. So 9.5 social. In terms of the future, like Trina's dropped a number of mixtapes. Mixtapes will kind of die down past like the mid late 2010s as far as that pitch kind of goes. I don't know what project she's going to drop after this. I know she at least dropped an album in 2019. Supposedly she's working on something different. We'll have to see about it. Just would have to say. There's definitely plenty more mixtapes. Like I said, she dropped 2 mixtapes just in promotion. This particular album, one is called Amazin', the mixtape. So I'm gonna have to get to some of these to kind of see about them. This is definitely a real good highlight. Once again, it's up there with like Diamonds Are Forever, the mixtape, and Still the Baddest, some of those type of pitches. This is just another good highlight and overall smash hit for Trina. I have to say, real good pitch to recommend.